Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Hamby, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Fox 40's Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
Fantastic. I'm glad we get to do a live show because I really enjoy listening to some of these people. I feel like we ignore some of them a little too much. I don't know. I like the interaction, so I'm hoping they really step it up tonight.
Oh, now DB is in the chat already. He's decided to join
the chat.
Mike Brown. Why can't you see the chat?
Yes, you
I
can,
used to.
Sean.
Oh, I got it now. Never mind. I found
Sean.
Old
DB's in the chat. He's in there. There's
DB.
Bryce. We got all kinds of people showing up. And of course, Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast is joining us. What's going on, Brenden?
I am doing great. The Kings have their last preseason game coming up tomorrow, so wrapping up that and getting ready for some meaningful games.
Brenden has almost survived his first training camp. His first training camp is almost over.
It's adorable.
Oh, it is adorable. Okay, so hey, if you are watching live, make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber here on the Kings Beat podcast, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. If you're not a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat, you need to become a premium subscriber. We have a Off the Record with the Kings Beat virtual happy hour. I'm still not going to say it. Scheduled for next Thursday, October 20th from 5:30 to 7:30. We are bringing in a female. I'll drop a hint. We are bringing in a female for this episode of Off the Record with the Kings Beat virtual happy hour, which is good. We've had too many males coming through, and it's time to get some freshen this thing up and get a lady to drop by and talk to us. Outside of that, what's going on, guys? It's about 9:15 on Thursday evening. Thursday Night Football just ended, and it was once again one of the worst atrocities that was ever put on television, and it's not even on television, it's on Amazon Prime. Where are we at with this Thursday Night Football, and how much are we looking forward to basketball on Thursday nights and not having to watch this trash Commanders versus Chicago Bears stuff?
Well said. It was Drek, and I did not pay that much attention to it. I tried to turn it off. We had it on as background noise a little bit in the office, and I don't know what it is, man. It's just not good. It's not good. I was last week. I was blaming the Denver Broncos and swore that I would never watch them for the rest of the season. And you know what? It's not exclusive to them, so now I kind of feel bad. Sorry, Denver.
Brenden, do you watch football?
Not enough, to be honest. I watch every Niner game,
damn it,
and
Brenden.
that's about it. And I have to break this news to Sean. I did not watch Silence of the Lambs yet. I
That's
thought
okay.
that we were not going to have – I didn't plan accordingly with the game in practice, so it's going to happen soon here. Busy couple days.
It's amazing. I don't need it to be some barn burner, some crazy thing. What I can't have is complete and utter ineptness. If it's I just don't understand. They open the fourth quarter. The clock is still at 15. They open the fourth quarter. It's 3rd and goal at the 6. And Carson Wentz gets a delay of game coming out of a quarter break, coming out of a commercial break. You had 4 minutes of TV time. What were you doing? So, yeah, I just can't understand what is happening. Again, I think the Bears needed a first down. They had 4th and 6, and they too got a 5-yard delay of game penalty and backed it up to make it 4th and 11 in crunch time. I just the incompetence, the just rudimentary, basic football. Just play the game. Sorry. I don't know.
Feel better?
I would have thought that you were more accustomed to baffling sports plays by this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, you do watch the Sacramento Kings and a lot of losing seasons, so
yeah, I've watched a lot of losing
ineptness.
seasons.
I mean,
no, there are plenty of nights where, yeah, I mean, even, when Tyrese Halliburton looks up and like, hey, man, we lost by 45 earlier this season. It's like, oh, yeah, you guys are really bad. That's true. That's true. All right, so the Sacramento Kings are 3-0. They're on pace to go 86-0 on the season. Sean Cunningham, your thoughts?
Is that a Thursday overreaction?
Thursday overreactions.
There might have been a small part of me that had a little bit of a snicker on my face. Is that possible? Maybe no. I snickered at what I saw.
Well, you could actually have snicker on your face if you were eating.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't eat that garbage, but I do drink beer. So
there we go.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like some people needed that moment because, again, if they were watching the game on the first preseason game in LA, it did not look good. I think people got a little drunk off what they saw in the Trailblazer game and maybe didn't realize just how bad the Trailblazers were in that game, how they kind of laid down. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Sacramento, but seeing that game in Phoenix last night, if you were able to watch it, because I know a lot of people had some difficulties with that stream. And by the way, I think it peaked at like maybe 600. I don't know. That's not a lot of people. Anyway, I just think like it was
stream.
Yeah, I kept seeing it was like hovered around 500 people.
There were other ways to watch it.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I watched it on. I actually watched it on the NBC app, which I don't know why it was on there, and it was kind of a hot mess. It was Gary Gerald calling the game, coming in and out of timeouts and TV breaks. It was a mess. Like the game had already started before we got back to it. But yeah, I think there are plenty of ways to watch it. But go ahead, Sean.
Well, and I think some people take a little bit too much out of preseason. Yeah, it just wasn't good, man. It wasn't good. This team is still very capable of looking like a team that just can't get their shit together. And defensively, it's going to be a mess. There's going to be a trying out period where you're still feeling out your teammates. You're trying to learn, what they have. And then all of a sudden you're preparing for one type of team and then they sit everybody and you're going up against guys you weren't really preparing to play against. So that can be tough. But at the same time, man, like, this is what we're kind of dealing with. This is why this team has a huge question mark around it. And if at best is you're a 500 basketball team, hopefully they're better than that. But if they are a 500 basketball team, that would still be a huge accomplishment. But 500 basketball looks very Jekyll and Hyde at times. So this is maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. Again, it's preseason. You shouldn't take anything away from preseason. Like people overreacting that KZ Okpala didn't play after starting the first two games. Come on, just look at the minutes played. Like maybe look at that first before you start jumping off a cliff. Like Mike Brown is going to tinker with this roster. It will probably get tinkered with in the regular season. And that's what happens when you're a new head coach taking over a team where a bunch of guys a team hasn't had success and a bunch of guys haven't played together before.
The game was shit, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's what it was.
Sorry
was
if the
really
Wilcox family
bad.
is watching.
Yeah. I hate to do it, but this game deserved it. This was bad. This was, it's preseason. I don't want to overreact, but I'm probably going to do that right after this because it's what we have to work with at this point. It was somewhat reminiscent of playing down to the strength of their opponent that we've seen in years prior. Like Dwayne Washington Jr. dropped 31 points and Jock Lawndale looked like a force in the pick and roll, and all of a sudden he's protecting the rim, and like I don't know what was happening. The Kings looked kind of like a mess, to be honest. And I think Mike Brown expressed that at practice today. He said you'll take the wins when you can get them, but we played really bad. And I think that's kind of what we saw. They got up a lot of threes. I still think there are things to take away from this game, but I was pretty concerned by the lack of effort really that we saw in that first unit.
You know what? We have a clip. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say Jock Lawndale. He also looks like Jake Paul or Aaron Paul, whichever Paul brother. He looks more and more like Jake Paul every single day.
Did you hear his comments today? Because they asked him about being a fan favorite, and he went off on some rant about why he could be. It could be the mohawk. It could be because I'm a dickhead. He
Nice.
actually said that. Yes. So he was kind of He's got a thick accent, and he was good. Hang on, let's play Mike Brown before I get into the fact that Dwayne Washington played 39 minutes and turned the ball over 11 times.
last night's? Sometimes in this league you take the win, but we didn't play well. From the beginning, they didn't feel us defensively. We have a lot of principles that we stick to on both sides of the ball. And defensively, one of the things that we talk about is being physical without fouling. At times we were physical, i.e. the 35 free throw attempts or whatever they had, but it wasn't in the right way. Our tone from the beginning was not who we are. Our ball pressure wasn't quite there. And, we gave up middle too much. We didn't finish plays. And again, whether we lose or we win, those are still the things I'm looking for on the defensive side of the floor. And then our pace was really sporadic. We've been playing with good, the first 2 games we played with great pace. Getting to the corners, our cuts were hard and stuff like that for the most part. Our pace wasn't good except for in spurts, like the last 3 minutes of the first half. Man, that ball was humming, the bodies were moving. It was beautiful basketball to watch offensively. And then our spacing wasn't good. And that was part of our 23 turnovers. And, you could turn the ball over, and if it's a live turnover, you're going to get hurt the other way. And we had too many of those. That's why he scored 33 points off our 23 turnovers. So there were some good things, but I'll take the win and learn in the win. But we did not play well for the first time.
But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
Yeah, exactly. Look at
Here are the
look
20
at-
bad things we did. There were some good. I can't name them, but they were there.
Can't name them at all. I think we overreact to preseason. Everyone always does. The fact that the Kings are 3-0 is interesting. They very well could be 1-2. And you just can't put that much stock in it. I think if you look at what Mike said there, if you pull the last 2 minutes of the second quarter, when they just put their foot down and were incredible, I'm hoping we get to see quarters of that, maybe halves of that this season, where they just look so good that you can't keep your eyes off the game, where you're just like, okay, that's beautiful basketball, because that's what that was like for like 2 minutes. The other 46 was pretty horrible. It was pretty horrible.
Mike Brown trying to encourage us to go back and watch that game, and no, I will not, sir.
I will not. My eyes were bleeding in the first half. After the first quarter, it was just so brutal to watch. The turnovers. What did they turn the ball over combined? Was it 47 times combined? And there was, what was it, 50? I tweeted these out after the game. 56 personal fouls. I thought the officiating was so god awful too. The whole time it was
Preseason for everybody.
what is happening? Why are you calling touch foul after touch foul? And I guess you could say, well, it's a legit call. Like the guy, like the defense was bad. But Brenden, how do you move forward and get ready for the Los Angeles Lakers after a showing like that?
Well, I mean, hitting shots is going to help for sure. I thought that was a big difference in this one. Maybe this is more on par with what to expect, especially compared to that Portland game where they just shot lights out and that was unsustainable. But I think it's worth noting every single one of these games, they've put up at least 39 threes. In that Portland game, they put up 45. They only did that number 39 or more 11 games last year. And I think it's just not only a product of Mike Brown's system being a little bit different and all this off-ball movement, but just obviously having more shooters. And I think like someone like Malik Monk, for example, who just hasn't, in my mind, gotten into a rhythm in these first 3 games. I thought he's been a little bit rough with that second unit, kind of forcing it at times, but I understand there's moments in lineups where he needs to sort of do that. But 0 of 5 from 3 in this game. He just hasn't gotten triples to fall. Like having Keegan Murray out there to make shots fall, I think will be useful. And really just I hate to use Mike Brown's word, but competitive spirit. Like I thought that the effort defensively getting back after fouls was really tough. Like De'Aaron Fox should never be getting beat back on transition. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. He should be able to keep up when a guy's next to him when there's a turnover. Like, I thought that there were a handful of moments like that. I thought that their rotations on defense were a second slow, and there were a lot of touch calls that were maybe a little bit of a quick whistle, but I thought it was on both ends. The Kings got a handful of free throws themselves as well. So I don't know. I think that you kind of just got to shake the stink off of this one and try to go into the next one and hope your shots fall and make sure you're primarily locked in on defense, because this was one of those nights where the Kings just looked horrific on defense. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that the Suns were without 10 players. Like, this was the very, very end of the Suns bench that the Kings were playing.
I wonder how much like Mike Brown was even. I didn't think he. I had a thought that he probably didn't want to play his guys in a perfect world in the second half, at least as like, his starters or those main players, guys like Fox and Sabonis. But based on how bad they were, I think that's why he put him out there. Someone had asked in the chat here a minute ago, DB saying, any chance that the Kings rest their main guys tomorrow? And I think had everything gone well in Phoenix, yeah, sure, maybe. Well, I don't see that happening. I think Mike Brown is going to ride it till the wheels fall off, and so to speak. Like, there's so much tinkering left for him, and I'm not so worried about the turnovers because it's just bad basketball all over the place. I mean, I don't care what team you're watching right now. Preseason is just, this is what comes with it. Preseason can be a rough watch, and as James mentioned and alluded to about the officials, like I said, it's preseason for everybody. But I actually don't mind the turnovers at all because it's showing that this team intends to move the basketball a lot, and I did think it got a little sticky last night. Despite some of those turnovers. So I still think that the ball can, as Kevin Herter would say, have more energy and have more life to it. But, yeah, man, that was a team that once, I think, from Jump Street, right, when they saw that no one was playing, that they just kind of started, their zest for that game completely went away.
Yeah, I'm going to point this out, too. I think we saw a different Mike Brown on the sidelines. He wasn't yelling for his team to run every possession. He wasn't calling timeouts after every single mistake. He sat down quite a bit. I thought that this was the first game where he kind of said, okay, if you guys don't get it, you don't get it. And we asked De'Aaron Fox about that today, and I think it's a short clip, and I think it makes a lot of sense for this discussion here when it comes to just how everybody kind of looked like it was an off night. De'Aaron, Mike didn't call a bunch of timeouts in this last game like he had in the previous games. Do you think he was letting you guys kind of figure it out on the court a little bit?
Yeah, definitely, because obviously, you only have a limited amount of timeouts, and Mike is the type of guy that's going to use them. But there are going to be times where sometimes you can't. You need those timeouts going into the fourth quarter. So, yeah, he was definitely out there. He was letting us try to figure it out, and obviously he was still talking to us and things like that. But sometimes you don't have a dead ball or a timeout to use or to blow to figure things out. And he allowed that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it was kind of one of those games where when you're a coach and you see that coming, like you see your team failing, sometimes it is good, especially in preseason, to go, okay, you guys go ahead and you figure this out. I'm not going to overcoach this thing. I'm not going to beat you down. I'm going to see if you can actually rely on the knowledge base that we've built over the last 2 weeks to get yourself out of this. And you know what? To be honest, I think it's a good strategy. This team does need to figure out how to stand on their own two legs sometimes.
If that game was in January, I think Mike Brown does something to get tossed from that game, just to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, I felt like getting tossed out of my house just so I could turn the channel. Like there were times where I'm like, I'm going to throw something at the TV so if someone kicks me out of the house for a few minutes. Yeah, it was pretty bad to watch. I mean, I was like maybe looking to see if I could find reruns of like House or something to watch. Maybe I would watch Silence of the Lambs since Brenden won't.
There you go, Brenden.
Since he hasn't watched it yet, maybe I'll just watch it again for Brendan's sake. Yeah. Oh, Brendan's muted.
Oh, Brenden, come on.
Oh, no.
Together.
Brendan, act like you've been there.
I'm supposed to be the tech savvy one. I'm gonna rewatch the Sun game before I watch Silence of the Lamb, just to really get under Sean's skin here.
I don't even believe you.
That's just like I'd rather like go listen to traffic for like an hour. Just like, oh, that's traffic.
I agree with Sean's point that like overall, I think it was fine because it was preseason. I don't think that we would see that if that was the regular season. I agree with what you saw, James, that it did look like a different Mike Brown. And I don't know, I just thought it was a little ironic after he told us, I think the practice before that, or maybe prior to the Portland game, that like, if I have my timeouts, I'm going to use them. And because if we're not on top of all the details and everything, then we're not going to be in the game anyways. And maybe that's a little bit of a different situation. Again, preseason, Dwayne Washington, Okogie, Torrey Craig, like Jake Lawndale, your opposition isn't exactly the most, you don't have to be the best version of yourself to come out on top that night. And it's nice to see if the team can do it. But in my mind, like the leader of this team is Mike Brown. There's guys that maybe echo his sentiments on the floor, but I think that the leader of this team is Mike Brown. And if they're going off track, I'm all for what we saw in those first two games. Quick timeout, get everything reset.
It's interesting. It like over his career and having conversations with him, this is a type of coach that De'Aaron likes. He likes a coach that is like in your ear, that is coaching the whole time, that is not rolling the ball out there. He likes direction, and he likes somebody who's on top of things. I don't know if it's something that he learned in AAU or if he liked the way that Coach Cal and his staff like sort of worked the team at Kentucky. But it's definitely, he likes discipline, and it's something that I think when there is no discipline, he feels uncomfortable. And so, like, I think it's interesting to see him try to climb his way out of a game where, again, he wasn't good. And it's kind of the weird thing about this team already. Like, we keep hearing this term, attention to detail. And then the team goes out there and misses free throw after free throw after free throw. And we watch them shoot free throws every day at practice. It's like the one thing that we know we're going to get to see.
It's because they're bad at it, James.
Well, yeah, but like
they miss way more than they should, even at the practices.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it is bad, but that's an attention to detail. That's slowing down, taking a deep breath, focusing in the moment, and actually hitting the free throw. And I don't get it. I mean, they're professional athletes. I mean, they at one point they were like 7 of 14, and I know like everyone had missed one. Fox missed one. Harrison Barnes missed one. Sabonis had missed one. Davion Mitchell, Monk missed one, and then Davion Mitchell stepped to the line, and whoever is working with him on the skyscraper jump shot and set shot, it's gone too high. It's like entering Omri Caspi stratosphere. You're like, what's happening here? But he went up and like missed 2 free throws so badly, throwing the ball way up in the air. Like I was just shocked. And so this team is a work in progress. It's going to take a while to figure out, right?
Well, it can't, right? This is the whole issue. Like the team doesn't really have the margin for error to have a growing period. They're focused on the play-in right now, and I understand like a sense of optimism, like the Lakers don't look good, Portland doesn't look good, and sure, maybe that lands you the 9-10 seed, but like you can't have your own growing pains in that process, in my mind.
I separate, I think, free throws to attention to detail. I totally get what you're saying, James. I just think that this is just, they are what they are. They're just not a good, I think they've recognized what they're not good at, and they're working at it. But they're just not going to be good at it. Like you're hoping to show some improvement, and you think maybe some guys can show the type of improvement necessary, and you're going to just really hammer it home. But I think more of the attention to detail is like the spacing, the know what your role's supposed to be when you're on the floor with certain guys. You'd mentioned Malik Monk, and I really enjoy him as a playmaker. I think, a lot of the things that he tries to do can be very good for this team, but shooting wise, oh boy, like when he's looking for his own, it has not looked good yet.
You can say the same with Harrison. Harrison hasn't, like, offensively, he hasn't clicked either. He hasn't hit his three at all.
He also just hasn't shot, like I feel like if you could, I don't have the stat in front of me, but if you looked up at his cumulative scores or his shots taken, I feel like it's under 15 for the through 3 games.
I mean, it's possible. And he's not the only one. The
Someone
other
can
guy,
look that up for us in the chat.
yeah, he had 9 shots in the last game, so he's got to be over 15.
Oh, okay. All right.
The guy who I want to see more shots from is Kevin Herter. I mean, Herter, just so people know, Herter did, he came down on someone's foot. It's Josh Okogie. And Josh Okogie was playing like crazy hero ball. Like, so what are you doing, man? This preseason. But
You leave Josh Okogie alone.
That's how he
Well,
plays.
yeah, I guess. If that's the only way you can play, I guess. But he slid underneath Herter on a 3-pointer, got a flagrant foul. Herter stepped to the line and missed 1 out of 3. And the Kings got the ball back. Herter took 6 shots. That's it. Like,
Well, and they've changed. Look, we're really harping on this one game a lot, and it is preseason. But I think more than anything, to me, it's like it falls back into that familiar theme where you have guys that play to the level of their opposition. They look across the court there, and it's like, oh, that's not Devin Booker, that's not Chris Paul, and it's a bunch of guys that they don't really know, and so then I don't know. I mean, I hope that's not the case, but it certainly reeked of that.
yeah.
Harrison Barnes through 3 games, 10 of 25 from the field,
25, okay.
2 of 12 from 3.
So 40% from the field. 2 of 12, that's not good. 1 of 6, so yeesh. Yeah, that's it's not great, Bob.
De'Aaron is leading 13 of 34 in total field goal attempts. Malik Monk is second, 8 of 29. And I think the one guy, total attempts. And yeah, to your point with Kevin Herter not getting enough shots up, Kevin Herter sitting all the way down here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on the team in shot attempts at this point. Above him includes Terrence Davis, who has been shooting lights out these last 2 games.
When it comes to Herter, I hope we don't get in the same situation that Harrison Barnes has got himself in, where every game you're waiting for him to like just pull the trigger more, because that's what it kind of looks like if you look at his stats from Atlanta, where if a guy is that good of a shooter and he plateaus at 11 points per game, and it's not like he plateaued for a season, it's 3 straight years where he's averaged 11 points per game. Like, the Kings can't afford for him to average 11 points per game. He needs to be a scoring option, a big-time scoring option with the starters, but also, like, I think this was one of the first games where we saw him play a little bit of 3, and I thought that was interesting. He needs to be on the court, and, once we get to the regular season, I expect him to play roughly 30 minutes a night, but so far, it just hasn't been there. And I was getting back to, he did sit out practice today on Thursday with ankle soreness. Clearly, I mean, there's a possibility he does not play on Friday. And of course, Malik Monk would step into that role if that was the case. Did you guys notice that when we walked in, we've been looking at, KZ Okpala, first of all, has been with the starting group the whole time. And then all of a sudden, KZ doesn't play. But this time he was not with the starting group. It was Malik Monk filling in for Herter, and it was Chima Moneke who was actually playing the 4 with the starting group and shooting with the starting group. Do you think we're going to see another change at the power forward in this next game?
I personally don't. I think they're going to roll out Trey Lyles if everything is if they go into this game where they're not resting anyone or they're not sitting anyone. I think you'll still see that. Even if Herter's out and they elevate Monk, that's fine. I do think there's a chance you might see someone like Chima maybe start the second half, kind of like what we saw against Portland, I believe it was, when Trey Lyles started the second half. But I think you could get into the second half of Friday's game and maybe De'Aaron doesn't play, maybe Sabonis doesn't play. But I think a lot has to go right for that to happen. And I think all you have to do is look back at what happened just this past game in Phoenix. I mean, if they play like shit, then I think he's going to, Mike Brown that is, I think he's going to really hammer home details and run these guys.
To be honest, I can't get behind Trey Lyles starting. I can understand the logic behind KZ Okpala. I think after that, it's Keegan Murray. And I don't, like, if you want to say Malik Monk and you're sliding HB to the 4 or you're going some sort of smaller lineup, maybe. I don't really see a solid argument for Trey Lyles, to be honest. I think Keegan's a better offensive player. I don't think Trey Lyles is bringing you anything defensively. Maybe Lyles would make less total mistakes on offense than Keegan, but I think that Keegan is a substantially better offensive player already. That one's a tough sell for me.
Well, and I think that's why he's coming off the bench. And I know that people might bristle at that, but it's true. I think what they're trying to do is keep Keegan with that second unit, especially because they don't really have a whole lot of scoring on there. If you took Keegan off of there, who is a pretty fantastic scorer, and they like to pair him, like if especially when all things are right, and you have Malik Monk part of that unit as well, there's your scoring. So if you took him off of that, put KZ or even Trey Lyles, who that's nice, but I think literally they have Lyles out there because he's a veteran. He stretches the floor. He's smart. He knows spacing. He knows all that stuff. I think he's average at almost everything he does, but he's fit in pretty nicely at times, and I think they want to keep Keegan getting touches and getting minutes, and to do that, I think it just bodes well with him coming off the bench, and then you have him mix with the starting unit once everything kind of plays out in the second, third, fourth quarters.
In my mind, real quick, the bench unit always has one of Fox or Sabonis in it still, though. I think we saw them staggered a little bit more often, and that's where I'm less worried about, like, Keegan needs to be out there for scoring.
Yeah, and I'm completely with that. And again, like I've told you, if it were me, I'm starting Keegan Murray, but I think that's what the thinking is, and that's what the strategy is being employed.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time before Keegan Murray starts. I mean, it might not be the first game of the season. It might be the first game. It might be the 10th game of the season. He's going to start, and he's going to be the starter at the power forward or small forward position for the next decade for the Sacramento Kings. I mean, you can just see it. He's going to step on. He's going to be so effective with that first group that you're not going to be able to take him off. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but Paul Westphal used to always say, like, you never start your 5 best players. And Keegan Murray is one of their 5 best players. But that's why you start a guy like KZ Okpala, because he's going to go out there and play defense and let the other 4 players who are, really good scorers do their thing. And then when Keegan comes in, it's going to be without some of that scoring on the court. And that's also why we're seeing that KZ can be a starter one night and he cannot play the next. And that will confuse people, but it's literally what I've been telling people the whole time. There's a good chance that they'll just skip over. They're going to keep Keegan in that second team because he's so successful at that, and they like what's happening there. And so they're just going to swap out who starts at the 4, and the guy who doesn't start is probably going to be out of the rotation because Keegan's still going to get his 30 minutes per game. And it's going to be kind of an interesting way that they handle it. But I do think it will be from one game to the next until they finally decide that, maybe they've got enough scoring punch off the bench with the guys that they have that they can actually put him in the starting lineup and see how it goes.
I kind of think KZ not starting or not playing in that Phoenix game, a part of me wonders if it's a different story if Chris Paul or Devin Booker are on the floor. Like, KZ's best skill is obviously his defense, and his offense, you're just trying to skate by and have him be passable there. And I don't know who you look at heading into this game of like, yeah, we need KZ out there so that way Dwayne Washington gets 15 turnovers instead of 11. Like, I don't know. I part of me wonders, is it a different scenario if you're playing a team where they actually do have somebody you want to make uncomfortable early that's a better creator in this league that it feels like most teams in the league have nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think this is a work in progress, and Mike Brown has a lot to do, a lot of work still to do. I mean, he has not installed all of the offensive and defensive schemes, all of the rotations, all of the things that he wants to do. And you need game action. You need live game action to do that. I think once the Kings get past, Friday's game and the preseason is in the rearview mirror, they'll have Saturday. FanFest is on Sunday. They'll have Monday and Tuesday to prep for the opener against Portland. You've already seen kind of what Portland has to offer and who they have to offer. You can make adjustments. They will make adjustments. But I think we're going to see this kind of tighten up a little bit. I think the one good thing we did see was that Keegan Murray and Richaun Holmes were both at training camp on Thursday. That's a good deal. The Kings need both those guys healthy and ready to roll. You can see the drop-off. Alex Len hasn't been horrible, but there is a substantial drop-off when you take Sabonis off the court. And, of course, Murray, he's he's just been lights out. He's been extremely good. We do have a clip of Mr. Rashawn Holmes, and I pulled this because Holmes missing a game, but also he missed 2 games, right? And he also missed a bunch of practice time with what amounted to like a stomach bug. But I think that for a guy like him, like gaining the perspective of sitting out and watching sometimes can help. So let's roll Richaun Holmes.
How are you feeling?
Man, I feel great. Great to be back on the court. Great to get a chance to get out there with the team tomorrow. I feel good to be playing. Feel good.
Missing some time, how do you feel like that affected you during camp?
I mean, honestly, my conditioning is pretty good. I was working out every day. It was kind of, just didn't want to spread anything just in case, but I've been working, been in condition, and I feel good. So,
Rich, did you gain any perspective by sitting out and watching them play and sort of seeing how the flow of the new offense, everything works?
I was in contact with Coach the whole time during the games, just understanding why I could be effective, understanding the spots he wants me in and things of that sort. So I think having a chance to get the mental side of the game and just watching, I think it's going to help me out a lot this season, honestly. Where are you going?
Sorry about the loud audio. If you're out there watching, we'll figure that one out. But yeah, what do you guys think? How much is Rich going to play? Because we keep talking about who's going to start and who's going to be the backup 4. And the only way that Rashawn Holmes plays more than like 12 to 14 minutes a game is if him and Sabonis play together. And we asked Rashawn about that today, and he said that him and Sabonis haven't played together. They've played against each other, which he thinks has made him better, but they haven't played together. Is that concerning to you, or do you just think, hey, Rich is the backup 5, and that's the way it's going to be?
To me, it seems like that's the way it'll probably be. I do still see moments that they're probably going to play alongside. I don't think maybe it'll be much, but I feel like just the way the rotations are working, I think it's interesting because I've asked a lot of people, and he is a big question mark at the moment. There's camps within the organization that think he's going to be a big significant part, and there's other that will be like he may not crack the rotation. And to me that seems absurd to say, but there's really like a faction of some folks that just don't see it, that don't see him playing, and especially with I know it's come up in the chat here about Chimezie Metu and some of the things that they might be able to do in that regard. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect, and especially considering you've missed about a week of camp. Really, this is a lot. And I asked him that question about being away. How much do you miss? I think he kind of defended it a little bit there in terms of, look, it's not his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault he got sick, but that he doesn't feel he's missed that much because of how attentive he's been. If anything, I feel he feels like more refreshed and things like that. Like, I don't feel like he feels that he's gonna lose anything that's being taught right now and anything that's being kind of implemented. And I think he feels that he's gonna have the most belief in his abilities and his ability to compete, and that'll ultimately win out. I'm inclined to believe him, but I do feel, because we all remember what he was outside of last year. Last year was a really terrible year for him, so you know what he's capable of. But I still feel like he's a pretty integral part of what the team is if they're going to have success.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the Holmes-Sabonis lineup for spacing concerns on offense, but I do think that there's moments where you're going to want to roll it out there, where defensively you need the rim protection that Holmes can provide in combination with Sabonis's maybe non-traditional rim protection, but more so just being in the right spot and deterring shots. So I think there's moments where you're going to want to try it, but I've never been a huge fan. And if they just want to play him at the backup behind Sabonis, I think that's fine. I've started to question it a little bit more with if they run the same offense when Sabonis is out there as when Holmes is, which I don't know if they will. I think Holmes was saying today that he thinks they play a little bit differently depending on who's on the floor between him and Domas. But I think that obviously Rashawn's a really good finisher. You kind of got to get him to his spots, though. He's not going to get there himself. I really think that somebody has to set him up. That push shot, getting the ball at the nail, extended from there, or getting him rolling towards the basket. He can catch lobs. Like, it almost feels like he needs sort of a pick and roll oriented offense to, I think, be the most ideal on offense. And maybe that's wrong of me, and he can be better in this system. I asked him a little bit how he felt he was as a passer today, and I think he just responded with, "I'm a basketball player. I can do everything." So I guess take that for what you will.
He is a basketball player, but he cannot
This
do
is
everything.
true. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's part of me that
I
wonders.
say
if
that with
Holmes-
love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your question to him, I mean, it's a good question because he needs to show that he can be a passer, that that when Sabonis steps off, that he can keep it going. But then again, I see them doing so much like way out on the perimeter and not going down to the post. And I still want to see more pick and roll from this team. Like I hope that they haven't abandoned it completely because I just think that's a huge mistake. You have like a duo in a pick and roll that's like nearly unstoppable. And I think if you take away the pick and roll from Sabonis, I mean, that pick and roll sequence he had with Herter was just unbelievable. Like when they started going downhill and the defense just had no idea what to do, and they just made it look so easy. Like you got to play the 2-man game with Herter and him, with Fox and him, with Harrison Barnes. Like that to me, like if they are going to fully go away from the pick and roll, then I think it's a mistake. And especially, I asked Fox about that this week. Just like, do you have input? Are you telling him the things that worked really well for you guys last year? And, are you asking Mike Brown to install some of those things? and his answer was like, I think he's taking direction.
Why? Nothing worked well last year.
Well, no,
last year should not.
There were some moments when him and Sabonis got together on the court for the 14 games, and where they had some magical moments between the two of them. And I think that we can point to that and say, okay, look, they're going to be devastating in the pick and roll if you get them together. Hey, just so we've got 161 people in the live feed right now. You guys give us a thumbs up. That feeds the beast on the YouTube machine. Give us a thumbs up. Okay.
How about Cool Raul, who was asking if Keegan wasn't sick, would he start? I don't think so. I think he would come off the bench.
Yeah, let's see where was that.
Is this rotating 4 thing not like scarily similar to what we saw last year?
Well, it's because they don't have one.
This year?
Well, no, I'm saying last year it was rotating because they didn't really have one, and Rashawn wasn't great. And I mean, you're talking about just everything. Like, there's so much that factored into last year. This year, it's still a huge question mark. You know who you want to be part of your rotation, but you don't want to really commit to any one of them, and it could be situational. You go up against a team like Lakers, who are going to have a lot of length. You go up against a team like, I guess, Portland, who doesn't. So it's interesting. I think it could vary. I don't think you're going to have this team right now. Isn't, and I know someone had alluded to it in the chat. Like, yeah, ideally you want to have a set starting 5. It does, opponent be damned. I'm with you. Rick Adelman would have done that, but Rick Adelman had a very talented basketball team where roles were defined clearly, and you had stars on the team. You don't really have that right now, and so when you have a first-time head coach, and this is kind of part of it. Like that's why it doesn't always go super well in the first year. Not to say it won't, but this is just part of it. There's a lot of tinkering that's going to be involved, and there's going to be a lot of take your small sample sizes, evaluate, and then you tinker, and maybe somebody falls out of the starting 5, maybe someone falls out of the rotation completely. We'll see how that looks.
Yeah. We did have let's just get to this. This is going to be one of our topics of the show for sure. Not that one. It moved on us. And of course, your Mark David, I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm not even going to try.
Achacoso? Did I say that right?
Achacoso. There we go.
Yeah, man.
Who is listening from the Philippines. He asked who got cut today. Who got cut today? It was not a full-on surprise. I mean, it's actually 2 of the 3 that Mr. Sean Cunningham guessed on Tuesday. But
2 for 2?
More.
2 for 2?
2 for but they haven't made
TBD.
the 3rd cut yet. Yeah,
Right.
TBD is the 3rd. Not TD, TBD, to be
determined.
To be determined. So Kent Bazemore and Quinn Cook. You know what? Like, just the way that the camp started and the way that those guys looked in the beginning of camp to where we are today, I know Bazemore really did get into really good shape and looked pretty strong in the last 2 games. But still, I'm not totally surprised just because you had young players that you're going to basically have to go away from if you're going to if you're going to make a like if you weren't going to waive one of those guys. So this sort of feels like they're going with some youth at the back end of their bench, knowing that they probably aren't going to play those guys a ton anyways, and you might as well bring along some young guys. What are your guys' thoughts?
I was a little surprised by Cam Bazemore being let go, but he was one of the candidates in my mind. So not shocked or anything. I just expected it to be Monecki, honestly, probably overreacting to him not playing in that Portland game. And I think it makes a lot of sense with Bazemore. I could have seen the same with Monecki, and who knows, he might be the third. But I think when it comes to Bazemore, like, being honest, he was really bad last year on a team that needed rotational players. The Lakers desperately needed more players that they could throw out and rely on a nightly basis. And maybe you could point towards shooting. And he didn't fit well with that Lakers squad because of that. I think that's a similar priority on this Kings team. So, I mean, I think it makes sense. I thought that Bazemore had a good chance as a cultural guy that could kind of echo the sentiments of Mike Brown and be an extension of him almost in a way, even if he wasn't playing all too many minutes. But I think it makes sense when it comes to on-court production.
Sean?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised at all. That's exactly who I thought it would. I think the third one will be Sam Merrill. I don't think I'm going out on the ledge there. And I think you've got your team, barring whatever shakes out from other teams. I think that's probably what they're going to roll with. And just to clean up what Bryce pointed out, I wasn't referring to Mike Brown as a first-time head coach with this team in his first year, taking over this team with a lot of question marks. And that can be difficult. I think, I think they've really have known what this team is going to look like for some time. And I think there's going to be, if you take it from one week to the next, like, some things can look a little bit clunky at times. They can, certainly you might have someone that you might feel could be cut, like in Chima's case, but I feel like there's enough sample size from the weeks that weren't in training camp, and you recognize that someone could be completely a raw player that they just don't want to give up on, and think that they could be impactful and find some moments for them to, get some G League stuff under their belt. And if he makes your final roster and you send him down, great. See what that looks like. I anticipate him being here. I really do. I don't know what the rotation will look like. I think that's still a mystery, but Quinn Cook, I think the undersized factor was really going to hurt him with this team. And I think that with Baze, aside from having I think a lot of people really took a lot away from that video where he just looked gassed. I don't think that the physicality was so much of an issue. I just think last year, as Brendan alluded to a minute ago, he just wasn't that good. And I think I've seen some people mention Dellavedova a minute ago, like that smarts, the leadership. I think that guy is going to probably be a assistant coach one day, could be in Sacramento. For someone who's super familiar with a Mike Brown system and what Mike is expecting, I think he can certainly be a great practice player with this team. Again, I still don't know if he can play, but kudos to him. He's kind of played the part pretty well so far through camp. I'd like to see a little bit more of him, if I'm honest, with some more meaningful minutes. But this thing ain't done yet.
Yeah. Okay. We did ask De'Aaron about the cuts today, so it's a quick clip. Let's hit that.
Any thoughts on Kent and Quinn, who were waived earlier this morning?
Yeah, I mean, Kent, veteran presence, a guy who really had a voice, and Quinn is a guy that's been around as well, won some championships, NCAA championship, like a guy that's two guys that have been solid wherever they've been, and even if they didn't play a lot, it's still a lot of work that they're putting in behind the scenes and still having a voice and talking to you. So we're definitely going to miss those guys. It's the nature of the business.
Yeah. So here's where things get interesting. I think a little bit for people who haven't, been following the Kings beat when we start breaking down some of like the finer nuances of salary cap. Quinn Cook, from what I know, was an Exhibit 10 contract, which means if he has an Exhibit 10, it means the only thing that's guaranteed for his season is $50,000, and the only way he gets that $50,000 is if he gets cut by the team, and then goes back to the Stockton Kings in the G League and stays there for 60 days. He gets the additional $50,000 to go with. I think it's $37,000 is what the G League pays this year. So there's a possibility that Quinn Cook goes, if he goes unclaimed, that he ends up in Stockton. Because it kind of feels like there was a reason why the Kings set up his contract that way, where Dellavedova is a guy who has a $250,000 guarantee during camp. If he lasts until January 11th, he gets the rest of his contract fully guaranteed. Chima Monecki has $250 for camp and another $250 if makes opening night roster. KZ Okpala has $250. And again, the thing is that when you sign for that big of a guaranteed dollar, you cannot be waived and then sent to the G League roster. If you're one of the last players, I think it's teams have 4 players that they can basically, once they waive, if they're on these Exhibit 10s, they can designate them to go to their G League team, and they carry their rights to the G League. And if they stay in the G League, they get that $50,000 bonus. We saw the Kings make 2 moves after they waived Kent Bazemore and Quinn Cook. They picked up what is it, Wes Iwundu and who's your guy, Jordan
Ford.
Jordan Ford,
Folsom.
yeah,
Former Folsom Bulldog.
Yeah. So you know what, Sean, you know about Jordan Ford where the rest of us don't. Like Wes Iwundu is like, he's a super long, super athletic wing that the Kings have never taken in the draft for some reason. He's at that 6.
Robert Woodard, excuse you.
Yeah, he's that 6'7" guy with a 7-foot wingspan and like crazy lanky athlete guy. But break down Ford for us.
No, he's really fun. He's got a great handle. Probably not a terrific shooter, but he really you'd think he was trying to mimic Steph Curry every time you see him play. He really takes command of the floor. He's a great leader. Likes to get a lot of points in the paint. He played under Randy Bennett with St. Mary's, and if anyone was able to kind of run over to Golden One Center when they were playing, they brought St. Mary's in as the headliner for during the college, one of those college games, those double headers. Usually have Sac State play Davis, and they had St. Mary's play, I think it was Fresno State, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember Noah Blackwell was on that team, and he's bounced around a lot, and it was fun because the two of them have battled in high school a lot. So, but just a great dude, man. Like he's improved his shooting. He gets he can get some points in the paint. He's very crafty, pushes the pace. He can willing defender, long arms, and just a great dude. I had a chance to say hi to him. But yeah, I mean, he's practicing with the team. He's going to be in Stockton. That's what that's going to be. He'll be in Stockton, and he spent some time with the Clippers and Agua Caliente with their J League team. So he even did an overseas stint for like part of the summer. I was expecting to see him at Summer League, so it didn't really work out that way. But this is a guy that I'm thrilled for him to be there because I feel like this is going to be a great opportunity for him, and I think he's someone who can maybe land on a roster. I don't necessarily think it'd be in Sacramento, but with just how smart this kid is, could be fun to watch and kind of keep up with for the next few years.
Yeah, it's a fun story, and today Sean went to go say hi to Jordan Ford and stepped over the line, and,
the gun line,
and media relations almost put Sean in the corner, which then I would have yelled, "Nobody put Sean in the corner."
That's fine.
And it was fun. It was a fun moment where we were laughing and having a good time. There
Pete
was
Youngman
a couple
is
moments.
here.
Wait,
What?
Pete is here?
Pete?
Oh,
I wish we could put him on. That'd be great.
Oh man, there's our good friend Pete Youngman, who was on the happy hour.
he had a really fun weekend. I guess it was a weekend. What was it? The 2 games down in Henderson with his Ignite and having Victor Wembanyama come through. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I wish we could just load him up here and have him talk
right?
about that. Of course, we're not going to force.
We'd
that
have to say goodbye to Pete. He'd probably bail.
Yeah, it would be like, oh man, yeah.
Gotta go.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen a front row seat for that. That's pretty fun. So like, here's the crazy kind of a bummer situation with the guys that they brought in today. There's a good chance that by tomorrow or by Saturday, they will get waived, and and the Kings will do this all over again. And so again, the Kings have up to they can allocate up to 4 guys, but from what I know, that doesn't include returning players. So Quinn Cook is a returning player. DJ Stewart is a returning player. If they do this with Addy Murkey, which I kind of expect them to do, give him a Exhibit 10 contract, then there's a possibility for him to be there. Sean is shaking his head like, no, that's not going to happen.
I don't see that one. But you're right. Maybe it's certainly
Yeah.
possible. But I also feel like, I always use the Gabe Vincent they give him an Exhibit 10. The next day he's waived. I don't know this for sure, but I kind of want to see if these guys are in uniform for Friday's preseason game, because, it's not going to cost you anything. You've already signed them to an Exhibit 10. You might as well, give them the opportunity.
That'd be fun,
especially
wouldn't
for
it?
Jordan. How cool would that be for Jordan? Like, to be able to play with the Kings on their home floor in a preseason game against the Lakers, and then you'll get cut probably the next day or 2 days later, and then you can go get ready for Stockton. But I'm really hoping that they don't sever those guys tomorrow, because again, both of those guys will be in Stockton, and that's kind of the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and then there's 2 other guys that I think O'Connell from the Summer League squad and Horn, Dry Horn,
yeah.
who I think both will be Exhibit 10.
Correct.
potential Exhibit.
I think
10 for the Kings.
I think both O'Connell and Horn will be Exhibit 10s.
Yeah. So, Brenden, you were down in Vegas. What did you think of some of these guys?
I mean, Horn can definitely shoot the ball. That's what we knew about him coming into Vegas and Cal Classic. He honestly didn't do that very well. I thought he had a really poor showing, but he has a really good track record of being able to shoot the ball. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of the guys that was 5 or 6 years in college. He might have been the one player, if I'm remembering this right, that was a freshman the same year as De'Aaron, but was just coming out. So he's a little bit older. But if he has that size and can shoot the ball at, a 40% clip, which is sort of what he was on pace for when he was at Tulsa, I believe it was, he was pretty solid there. And Alex O'Connell, I think everybody that was in the gym when even just him in layup lines was like, man, this guy can jump. Like, he is very, very bouncy. The athleticism is ridiculous. And if the 3-point shot is there, I think that athleticism can really be a tool when he's attacking closeouts, and it should be able to benefit him on the defensive end. And I just want to say that Wes Iwundu is the Robert Woodard Player of the Month. So I'm hoping that he gets a little bit of run here in this Lakers game.
So over a cliff, Brenden, like if you've ever seen the movie The Good Son, which I know you haven't, but there's a scene in there where this woman has 2 kids over. She has to drop one to save the other. It's Keon Ellis and it's Wes Iwundu.
One is her son. One is her nephew. Is that what it is? Like,
go ahead. Who dies to save the other?
This isn't a real question.
And
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. Yeah.
This isn't a real question, guys.
It's a real question. How dare you? It's my
tattoo.
question. That's right. You will get a Keon Ellis
So you're letting Wes go and letting him fall
Bye,
to
Wes.
his death so you can hold on to Keon Ellis.
Hope you don't hit those rocks on the way down.
Of course. He can hang out with Robert Woodard in OKC and we'll be fine. Keon, by the way, I don't know that I counted all of these stats myself, but NBA stats in his 7 minutes had 4 deflections and that nasty steal that led to the transition take foul. First time we've seen it all year. Wouldn't have happened without Keon Ellis. I haven't even looked at his per 36 numbers yet.
Somebody had asked earlier, like, if he was going to make opening night roster. It's like, well, you will if you're a 2-way player, because the G League season hasn't started yet. So will you be on the active? Like, will you be inactive? Probably going to be inactive for that game. But yeah, man, he'll be part of the roster.
Yeah, because I think it's still just 13 players are active, right? You have 15 roster players, 2 have to be inactive, and then you have your two ways, and they can actually jump over other players and become part of your 13. And you can have two ways up to 50 games this year on the I think on the active roster, so you can have them there for that many games. It's kind of interesting. We're gonna see a lot. Go ahead,
I
Brian.
should know this, but what is inactive exactly? Not playing on a given night, or
Right.
Yeah, it's
You're,
just one night.
you're not dressed.
okay?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't
you'll be in
dress.
street clothes.
Yeah, and every once in a while you have inactive players who wear street clothes just so you have enough players to in street clothes. I mean, and not in street clothes, in uniform, just so you have enough players sitting there. Okay, so yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff that's going to happen. It's going to be a busy couple of days. Again, we're going to see more of these transactions, which are really built to kind of strengthen the G League and what we call the program. Is there anyone out there that you guys would like to see them go out and take a flyer on and try to bring in here?
Isaiah Joe.
Did he
Philly
get
just
cut?
let go of him.
He got cut.
Yes,
He got cut. Yeah.
I think it was Philly.
Yeah, Philly cut
yeah.
him, and they cut the shot
Don't
blocker.
remember.
Um,
I don't remember the other one.
Baisley.
Yes, Paul Bassi.
Yeah.
Charles
Question
Bassi.
mark?
Charles Bassi,
Question
I think
mark?
it is.
Yeah. I don't know why my brain is skirting that. Yeah.
But Isaiah Joe shoots the heck out of the ball. Played with Moses Moody at Arkansas. Showed some potential as a movement shooter. Somebody that's a little bit interesting to me. I haven't kept up amazingly with the other cuts that are going out throughout the league, but Isaiah Joe was definitely a name that stood out to me.
I
Sean,
was
you
not
got
ready
one?
for this question. I figured I would look by Sunday and Monday to see what those cuts would look like, but yeah, Isaiah Joe's interesting. I don't know that there's anyone I'd run out and get right away. I'd kind of give it some time, maybe go into the season a little bit, see what kind of shakes out. What happened? Is he leaving? Did I piss him off? Oh, Jesus. Why did that come up?
What's going on?
Brenden
She doesn't have a home yet, just saying.
is campaigning for Jemias Ramsey to come back. I'd be cool with that. I like Jemias.
I'm not campaigning, I'm just pointing it out. He doesn't have a team, which might be telling, to be honest.
So
but
adorable.
we don't have
Look
to
at this
point
guy.
he's so young. He is so young. It's crazy. Jemias, like he came into the league. Just, I think he was the youngest player in his rookie season.
Brenden, if Jemias didn't have the hair color, the split hair color, would that change your adoration for him?
It really doesn't have to do with the hair. Honestly, I just
Okay.
liked that they took an upside swing in the second round, and I felt like that never happened, and I had something to hold on to of like, oh my God, maybe this guy can become solid, and it's interesting to watch these second round prospects. I wasn't like huge on Jemias. I think I was very big on Woodard, admittedly, and just watched a lot of Jemias, so it became a thing that I love Jemias, and somebody got that for me.
That's
Why
amazing.
were you so big on Woodard?
Because he can play defense and he
Oh, can he?
hypothetically
Can
could
he?
hit threes. I have
Can
to
he?
admit, he can play very good defense. How dare you, Sean Cunningham?
Maybe in
but-
football, where he probably should have played.
Maybe
Go
both.
ahead.
Maybe both. But when I first got in the gym, in the practice facility, I have to admit, him putting up threes in an empty gym was kind of the end point for me. They weren't going down at
Go
all.
ahead, James. Did you have your eye on anyone?
Not really. Like I don't like someone brought up Jared Roden, and I thought he played really well. He's going to be like an exhibit 10 for Portland, and I thought he played really well in summer league, and that's a guy that I would have gone after and tried to get him into camp on a camp deal. But overall, like these, I think it's good that, like, again, if they do, let's just say they do bring back Quinn Cook, and they bring in DJ Stewart, which is like going to happen, and let's say that Addy Murphy does come back, whether he does or not, I'm not sure, and then you have these 4 transactions that we expect over the next couple of days, right? With the 2 that happened today, and then 2 more. We're already looking at 7 players on the Stockton Kings roster. and the G League rosters are small. What are they, 10 or 12 players? And then
Oh no,
Oh no,
poor James.
we're not even allowed to talk about
What
second round picks.
what an unfortunate screen grab that is right there. You should go ahead and send that to him. Yeah, man, I think, look, I know someone even pointed out about Robert Woodard, Bryce, and Megan both. If you didn't see the Kings digital video that they put out where how they eat sandwiches or how they go with, and he went right out of the middle like he was playing a harmonica. Not for
Pretty
that.
psychotic. It's out there.
You
that's
are
funny.
an absolute lunatic. Oh, James is back. Hi there.
Frozen ham, we call that. That happens on ESPN 1320 almost every show. This last week, the last show, it happened before I was actually scheduled to come on. I came on early and boom, froze instantly. It happens.
So the chat's saying you're defrosted now. This is great.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, I was saying, like, I don't, like, if they get these transactions done, you're already looking at 7 players at the G League level. And then if you take into consideration Nemias Keita and Keon Ellis, that's 9 players. And so you're already looking at like a nearly full squad. The Kings don't have a first round pick in the G League draft, which I think it does come into play, but I know that doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. They have, I think, 3 second round picks in the G League draft, and I don't think they have a third round pick. But the reason why I think it's a big deal is because Sam Merrill is a guy who's on the bubble, who's still with the team. They just cut 2 veterans and he's still there. And like, could I see like some weird situation where they just go, okay, it's Dellavedova who gets waived and keep Sam Merrill? Sean shakes his head like, no. But I think that they would love to have Sam Merrill in their program, but there's almost no way to get him because if he does go in the G League draft, because they can't protect him in any way, he's going to be one of the top players in the G League draft. I would assume probably top 10, top 5.
You think so? Top 10?
Yeah, in the G League draft, because it's basically only for players who have never been on a G League contract. So again, like, he's played in the G League, but he's always been part of a main roster who gets sent down to the G League. He's never just been on a G League contract. So he will be part of the draft. Where again, like Quinn Cook, he wouldn't be in the G League draft. If he's going to go to the G League, the Kings have his returning player rights. Got me? So
I'm feeling like I need to make a G League draft big board here.
Oh, great question by Swagman. Did any of you see the Redeem Team? I just watched it the other night.
No.
It's on Netflix if you haven't
You're
seen
going
it.
to love my answer. I've seen half of it.
What is wrong with you? Why?
At one point, I got hungry and I left.
You just-
and then that was a couple of days ago, and I haven't gotten back to it. No, I just got hungry, so I went and got some food, and I haven't gotten
This
back
isn't
to
a
it.
book. You don't just put it
Classic
down.
Classic Brenden.
Do you watch full? Yeah,
The first
I know
half
you watch
was
full
really
basketball
good
games.
too. The first half was really good. It's not like a knock on it. I liked it.
What
I'm gonna
was
watch
the last
rest.
thing you remember seeing?
Apparently Kobe changed everything, and I was shocked that they lost to Egypt that one year. That might have been
Egypt?
qualifiers.
Are you sure it was Egypt?
Greece.
Thank you.
Not Egypt.
There you
Come
go.
on,
Good God.
one of them teams. Yeah. I don't know. What's this test for?
It's
Did you like it,
amazing
Sean?
that you can.
finished it?
Yeah, I did. It's really good. I don't know that it was living up to a lot of the hype that I was hearing about it, and I was trying to figure out why. Like, why didn't I like it as much as maybe it sounds like it's good. I just felt like I was expecting a little bit more.
I wasn't expecting
but
so
no,
much
it's
Carlos
good.
Boozer.
That's fine. Go Duke. What's wrong with Carlos Boozer? He's part of the
Nothing
team.
wrong with Carlos Boozer. I just wasn't ready for it.
Did you see Brad Miller? He was on the select team who was trying to make that roster. He's on the FIBA team. It didn't go so well. He didn't really play much, but Brad Miller on that team.
There we go. Okay, we can't stay on all night long.
We can't?
Yeah, well,
I got
guess
more
we
beer
could.
in the fridge. I'm just go get some.
I guess we
Sean
could.
has
I guess we
time.
could. We still have 176 people in here. It's gone
See,
like
the
well
pe-
over
listen to the
180 a
people.
couple of times. So give us a thumbs up. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. And if you're new to the show, subscribe. Be a subscriber here. on the Kings Beat YouTube channel. Be a subscriber to thekingsbeat.com. Jump on board with the premium subscription, all that stuff. It's all down below in the description as you're watching. Let's get to what's that?
These comments are great.
You're
I
loving
know
the
who
comments.
Brad Miller is.
Yeah.
What is Duhonst creep Sean? I don't know what that means. What is that? Megan, what do you mean? Is that a typo? Duhonst?
How about we take questions from the chat? A Q&A
Yeah, let's do
segment.
that.
Yeah, we should.
Yep, that's a great point, Tio Kumi. Brendan, you're only gonna eat half. We had this Golden One Center taste testing thing today, and I'm sure you probably only ate half a burger, ate half of the fish sandwich. What'd you do?
No, they gave us tiny portions. I was good. I was
Okay.
good. There's some great carne asada fries that are coming out with like Sacktown fries
Ooh.
or something like that were really, really good. People were hyping up the beef that's not beef, but I didn't try it, to be honest.
Bulgogi beef.
Yes, there you go. I would have even tried that word.
It's
The
Korean.
tacos were really good, but yeah, it was solid.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, Bryce. Bryce, well played,
Sick
man.
bird. Okay, so let's do this. Before we do the business of basketball.
Look how serious you get when you do that. Have you seen yourself when you do this? Do it one more time.
No.
Dance monkey. Let's go.
Before we get there. Let's do a quick round of questions. We got a ton of people in here, so you guys fire away. And
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
No.
So we do the happy hour, right?
Yep.
Which I think we were doing because, we were doing like his pandemic, you couldn't gather. Now you can kind of gather again, So just hear me out. Like I think we should find a gathering at a establishment that works for possible happy hour, like a legit happy hour at an actual establishment in person.
Okay, so here's my response to that.
No.
No. I say this. Let's do a live show at an establishment, but let's do tickets. Like you got to buy tickets, and if you're a Kings Beat, premium subscriber, you'll get a substantial deal on those tickets. But we'll do tickets, and we'll do T-shirt giveaways there and everything else. But we'll set it up. I'll do a live show, and that sounds good to me.
That sounds fun.
I love it.
Tickets
Yeah,
have to be
fun,
like
right?
super cheap. That's.
Yeah, they won't.
I'll sneak you in. If you can't get in, we'll sneak you in. I'll find.
It won't be outrageous, but yeah, we'll do tickets. It'll be fun.
Oh, here comes the
actually,
Brendan's
someone-
under 21.
what is Drew Mack? What did Drew Mack? Oh,
Tell us
who the guest is.
Yeah, not happy. I have a filler question while we wait for any Q&A things to roll in. Popped up on my Twitter a while ago, and I'm curious what you guys think. If Mike Brown were unavailable, say he's sick one day, who is the head coach that steps in?
Jordy.
My guess
Jordy.
is Jordy, right? Yeah, he was the
Yeah,
guy
it's
that did all
Jordy.
the summer league stuff. But is there any chance that it's why am I drawing a blank?
Doug
Jay
Christie,
Canadian
Triano?
head coach Jay
Jay
Triano,
Triano.
who has interim experience, and Jordy doesn't, right?
It's a pecking order though, and I
Yeah.
mistakenly had labeled Jay Triano as the associate head coach because
No.
it just seems like that. So I had to correct that on Twitter the other day. But yeah, man, it's definitely going to be Jordy Fernandez because he's your associate head coach, and that's the line. If you look at the seating and the way coaches sit on the bench, and then it trickles into the back, that's your order right there. And that's the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see who's front of the bench and who's back of the bench. I haven't gone on to see it. Okay, let's get to a question. Here we go. From Mark, any chance Keeta gets a contract upgrade before the season starts and Chima gets a second 2A? No.
Possible. I wouldn't bet on it, but possible.
I mean,
it's
will it
functionally happen? I
possible?
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Here's why it wouldn't. I don't think it'll happen. I think they really want to see Keeta in the G League. He didn't play a lot there, and he obviously didn't play up here very often either. So I think what you remember from him as a G League player last year, they will treat him as more a true G League player this year. They wanted him to be around the guys last year and practice and kind of get work on his body, all that stuff. He didn't play in a lot of games. I think that's going to change this year. This is where they want to see him in Stockton.
Brenden, do you have any thoughts on that?
Just that Len's been playing over Keeta, what it looks like, my preseason overreaction, I guess, but it looks like Len is over Keeta in this rotation currently, so I would expect a lot of what Sean said.
No, do we lose him?
May have for a brief moment. We could take another
There
one
he
of
goes.
these,
Sorry,
though.
my mic died for a minute.
Someone said, "Who's going to throw down
I
the
did
first
not
monster
freeze
dunk?"
this time.
Didn't we already see it? I think we saw it. That was Domantas Sabonis. That was
That's
great.
true. His reaction was hilarious.
So was the
I
bench.
think, yeah. I think it was James that asked him, how'd you feel about that? A lot of people were surprised. And he just chuckled and said, I don't know why everybody keeps saying they were surprised. Like he throws it down on people's head all the time.
The
Right.
dunk?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, my mic had died for a sec. Yeah, I thought, and then he went out and he had a steal in the opening seconds of the game and had another huge dunk, but not in traffic. It's a little different.
TD almost had a big one yesterday.
Oh, he's going
He
to
tried it.
He's definitely going to get a body. Absolutely.
Yeah, TD has tried to kill a man a couple of times. It usually doesn't work out though. I think Chima, right? Chima he's gonna like go over the top of somebody this season.
You think so? I don't know. He's not that. I don't picture him like a guy that jumps out of the gym.
Have you watched his European footage?
Did you see? Yes, I have. But like, if you, by the way, did you see the tweet in response to Malik Monk threatening to popcorn his car?
No.
That was funny.
He literally tagged Malik Monk, retweeted my video, and said, "Please don't popcorn my car, Malik Monk."
Malik might be the other answer, by the way.
Oh, of course. No, he'll
Yeah.
definitely get somebody. Someone was asking about like Fox and the way he shoots, and like how we should ask him why he doesn't get enough push behind the ball. And I think Safe Moon Justin wants to ask about Fox's free throws. Like, he's definitely working on them. I don't know if I feel comfortable asking Fox if he gets enough push behind his shot, though. It's not really a question I could, go down there. But
He did change his free throw routine.
I've always thought that Fox has a tendency when he's caught in the moment of not looking up and catching the rim early enough when he shoots his free throws. Like he rushes, he dribbles a couple of times and then he's looking at the rim as he's shooting it. And as opposed to like catching the rim and staring it down, almost like a pitcher who picks up the glove too late. So that's just my opinion. I think when he doesn't focus, he speeds up way too fast, and that's where his mistakes are. He usually comes out flat. He just doesn't have like the proper depth perception or something when he's rushing. But
Frank Graham asked this question that I had to pause because he says, each of you name the last 6 guys to make the roster. Top 9 pretty certain, ? Of these, pick 6. And he has Okpala, Deli, Metu, Len, Lyles, Iwundu, Merrill, Keita, Keon. If you have Iwundu, probably mean forward also. Neither one of those are going to be on the final roster.
No.
So
yeah.
Okpala, Deli, Metu, Len, Lyles, Keita, Keon, they're on your roster. I think Merrill gets cut.
Who do you think gets cut, Brenden?
I think it's Merrill. I mean, I've heard that he's been solid in practice and camp and everything, but I think he's just somebody that can knock down shots, and I don't want to undersell the value of that. Like, the Kings need spacing, but I don't know what he does else on the floor. So he seems like, I thought he's been the 20th man the entire time, to be honest, and so I kind of think that he's the last one out.
Okay, I'm going to say I think we've all viewed him as a 20th man, and then we walk in the gym and he's never the 20th man. Like, so maybe, but I also think it's very
Thursday
possible.
overreactions.
Yeah, no, but I think that Dellavedova could still get cut. If
I
I'm
agree.
if I'm putting money on it, I'm probably
It's
going
Merrill.
to go with Merrill. But if I really am thinking about it, I could talk myself into it being Dellavedova, especially with the way that Malik Monk seems to have taken over a lot of the point guard duties with the second team, which shows me that they look at him and say, okay, he can play both the 1 and the 2. So we have Fox, we have Davion, And if we need an emergency third point guard, we've got one sitting there that could play a little bit here and there.
Merrill also gets the run because just by numbers, like you don't have as much depth at that position, so he gets bumped up to the front, whereas some of these other guys don't.
I don't know. I mean, at the 2, I mean, you have more depth at the 2 than any other position on the floor. I mean, Terrence Davis is there. You got Monk. You've got Herter. You've got Keon Ellis. Like,
yeah, but Ellis is they keep the two ways behind him.
No,
it's,
that's true.
It's different.
That's true. Let's get to.
I think it's still. Sorry, real quick. I think
Yeah.
it still could be Chima. Like,
Yeah,
I think
possibly.
that he's part of this conversation too.
Yeah, it's possible.
Boise asked, by the way, I think this is fabulous, and I know I'm keeping this going for too long, probably, but I don't know if that's a he or she. But Boise said, if you had to cover a non-California team, what team and why?
A non-California team.
Yeah, great
Like
question.
any team? Like
No,
basketball?
I think they mean NBA. Go ahead, Brendan. I know. I think I could guess Brendan's.
What's your
Of course
guess,
it
Sean?
is.
Well,
Boston.
Brendan's going to say Celtics.
It's gonna be Boston. Like, I mean, yeah. I grew up a Celtics guy. It's got to be it for me.
Since James is thinking, I didn't know it was going to be this complicated of a question, but since he's, for me, I think it'd be the Miami Heat. And that also goes into why somebody asked me why I like the Heat so much in terms of weather. I love warm weather. It's fantastic.
You know what?
What do you
I was thinking the Heat as well. And my wife loves the beach. Like if I were to cover a team outside of Sacramento, like we're never gonna move. But like if it would be like, oh yeah, go to South Beach. That
You've got a beach at your lake.
Sean, we have 3 beaches here
And
in
you
the
have
lake.
3 boats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I change my answer to the Pacers?
Oh yeah, there you
Really?
go. There you
Oh,
go.
I see why. How you're such a dork.
Hey, I'm gonna hit another Boise question here really
Do it.
quick. Does Keegan have all NBA potential?
Like ever? Wait, can you put that question back up? Because I was really curious of what the what cartoon is that?
It's
Thank you, Brendan. I knew we had the right question. Oh,
Yeah.
It's The Sky is
God.
Falling. It's Chicken Little, right?
No, that's not Chicken Little.
Oh,
It's
you're
not
an
from Chicken
idiot.
Little.
No, Chicken
Are you
Little
sure?
is Zach
No,
Braff.
that
sure
is not Chicken Little. But is it not a character from Chicken Little?
I don't know what character that is. So we're gonna
Boise will
Surfs
help
Up.
us out.
Surfs Up.
Surfs Up.
Chat
Okay,
is letting us know.
there we go. There we go. Well, I'm glad someone. Let's get back to the question at hand.
Sorry.
No, I mean because I think Boise, you asked a couple of different ways the same question, like what's his ceiling, and we'll just go. The ceiling is the roof. You know what? Like, I want to see it in an actual game, but I certainly have like changed my view on what Keegan Murray's ceiling is, just because like everything he does somehow translates perfectly, and I don't know how because that's not the way most young players are. They get into the league and they can't do everything. I still think he's not going to be a shot blocker like he was at the college level. I mean, he can still block like 0.8, 0.9, maybe even a block per game, but he's not going to do like 1.9 like he did at the college level. I think he's a better passer than he showed at the college level. His basketball IQ is off the charts. Can he be all NBA, like third team, second team, first team? Like, I don't know. We need to see how it goes in year 1 and year 3 to really make those judgments. But my like recalibration on him is pretty strong. Like I do think he'll be a 20 point per game scorer for multiple years in his career.
This question gets me in trouble. I don't like this question.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Piss people off.
No, like I don't
Are you
want to
saying
say
no to me or no to the question?
no to the question, and
Okay.
I'm gonna
Nobody puts Brendan in the
preface
corner.
that a little bit.
Attack, Kings fans. Attack.
I understand it's wrong to say, it's not impossible. It's possible. Like that is, it feels wrong to ever say that a guy that put up the numbers he did in college can't possibly do that. There's not a world where he is an all NBA player like 1 or 2 years. I think I'm sticking with this Chris Middleton comp that he's made himself and that I can't shake ever since he said it. Chris Middleton can make an all NBA team or two throughout the course of his career when he's on one of the best teams in the league. And I think that of Keegan Murray, similarly, if his team is winning a lot of basketball, then sure, he can make it. But I don't know. I hate being this guy, but I still don't think he's a primary option on a team. And I think he's a great fit for what Sacramento needs right now. I don't know about the long-term ceiling. I think All-Star is in the cards. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think it's possible. All-NBA is a really, really high ceiling. Like, we're talking about a top 15, 20 player in the league. And I think it's easy to overlook just how good of a talent that has to be.
Sean?
I'd bet against it. It's possible, and I also think I also think that it could happen if he kind of changes the type of player he's going to be. And what I mean by that is, like, I think he'd really have to dive into being a pretty stellar offensive player and become elite at either shooting, which I think he's shown the ability to be a really good shooter so far.
He's a 70% 3-point shooter, Sean.
Yeah, man. I know. Small sample size, and I don't take away from preseason the way a lot of people do, or summer league for that matter, guys. But yeah, I think he's a very talented scorer, and I think he has the ability to be a high level scorer. I just don't think I'd bet on it. So it's kind of hedging my bet a little bit, but I just don't see how that happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too. I'll make this distinction too. I think if there's a way that he can play the three, like, I look at him slightly different because, again, like if he's Chris Middleton is a 2 at 6'8" that can play the 3 and can play the 4 in a pinch. At this point, like, they're shoving Keegan Murray into a 3 role, and I don't know if, like, he's ready for that yet. But if he can play that position, then amazing. I'm still trying to decide who he's more similar to, like a Chris Middleton, or is he gonna? Someone mentioned he's gonna add 20 pounds in the by next season. Like, he could easily add 20 pounds. You can see that he's working on his body definition, but it's not there yet. But could he be more like a LaMarcus Aldridge, but like the modern day LaMarcus that shoots, 400 threes a year? I think I could see that as well, so.
Yeah. I had someone try to tell me Lamar Odom. I don't see it.
No,
but
Lamar
I
Odom
think
was a great passer.
He can be
outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, he could really be an elite level scorer if he wanted to be. And I think a lot of the temperament that he shows, he's just not really that guy. He'd have to be a hell of a lot more selfish.
He could be Harrison Barnes, which isn't a bad thing, but that's not all NBA.
Actually,
No,
yeah,
not.
and then this is an interesting one here too, right? What if he becomes a Peja? Like, because so far what we're seeing is that scoring.
Peja.
Yeah, but like that type of player, the modern day Peja. I mean, like I've mentioned this before. Like, when Peja retired, he was number 3 in 3-point attempts all time. He's now like 25th. Because the sheer volume of threes have gone up so much in the last decade. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like, there's a lot of different player types he could be. I kind of want to see how he looks, 60 games into his rookie season, and I want to see what he looks like at year 3. But I definitely, like, I'm higher on him than I was before. You guys are higher on him now than you were at draft time, right?
No, I was high on him as a scorer. I was, I don't think he's shown me anything that really surprises me. He's probably just shooting a little better than I thought. I figured he'd come here. He'd be a fantastic player who can score the ball and can fit the NBA system for what he is. Again, I still would have drafted Jaden Ivey and still would have. Like, I haven't seen anything that prevents me from wanting to take Jaden Ivey just because I think he has more star potential. But, I didn't dislike Keegan Murray. Like, I remember when Brenden had that day where he was that dark day. And TC, I'm not doubting Keegan, and I hope I'm wrong. Like, I really do. It's not that I doubt him. I just don't think he's that dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's a difference there. Like, I think he understands how to do what best suits the team. I think he's a guy that's going to put team over himself all the time. Meaning that I just don't think a lot of star players don't really do that. Like they have to be the alpha, and I don't see Keegan Murray being an alpha at all. So that's not a bad thing. Like he could be a fantastic player. I just don't think we're going to be looking at him as being in the top 20, 25 NBA players at any point in his career, and that's fine. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm even while you're saying that, I could see him as a Paul George level player.
That's
Like
the
not the same
ceiling.
game. Not the same
Did
game.
you ever go back and rewatch that episode, Brenden?
It's a little much for me to rewatch. I'm not gonna lie, but I think that most of my points I still stand by. There's probably some I'm a little overdramatic for sure, but
That's so good.
I think that I don't know. Don't need to get on the same rant. It's a lot of the same. The long-term ceiling of this team, I think, is still concerning in my mind. Like this, I feel great about the team becoming competent to be, and I think that this year is going to be exciting. I think that there's a lot of well-deserved excitement around ending this playoff drought and just getting back to watchable basketball that's not horrible. I worry about how they get better from there, and maybe it's just you figure it out once you get there and worry about it at that point. But I still have the same worries because I think it sounds like similarly to how Sean is about the ceiling of Keegan. I think the best players in the league need to be able to create for themselves. And I just don't think that we've seen anything that leads me to believe that Keegan can do that. Like players are capable of having outlier development, and I'm not saying it's not possible or anything. I just don't think that we've seen him get his own shot at Iowa or any of these games throughout Sacramento. Like within the flow of the offense is great. And I think that makes him a phenomenal complementary player up to like a third option in my mind. Or somebody pointed out in the chat earlier, like Chris Middleton comp, like Chris Middleton was the second best guy on a championship team. Sure, when you're talking about next to an MVP that does absolutely everything.
And a unicorn. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm with you, Brenden. Like, it's tough, like, to compare him to, like, a complete anomaly in Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And even the Chris Middleton stuff, he has to get a lot better to become Chris Middleton.
Right.
I don't think people
Agreed.
realize just how good Chris Middleton is.
Yeah.
Well, I also think, someone had mentioned Kawhi, and I know they're not trying to compare him to Kawhi, maybe in the temperament, whatever, demeanor, as you call it, but
Stephen Brown was a good comp there.
I don't think that's a good comp at all.
I think it's an interesting comp.
Danny Granger.
Like
Danny
the level
Granger
of player.
Dude was a beast, man. That guy was like a very much more selfish player than Keegan Murray is, and selfish to a good point. Like he was a fantastic scorer, but like the guy who wanted to be not only the best player on the team, he wanted to be the alpha. Someone had, with Kawhi, like I never thought Kawhi would be like a 20-point scorer in the league. Thought he'd have elite defense and he'd be fantastic, but he wouldn't be, anything like he is right now. And with Duncan, like I agree with the Duncan temperament, but as someone pointed out, yeah, Duncan was an elite defender, and he went to a team that he absolutely had the utmost team buy-in. Like, to compare him to Duncan from a temperament standpoint, mentality standpoint, I'm with you. But Duncan was elite, man. This guy was fantastic. He was the number one option on the team. And as Brenden said, and I agree, I don't see Keegan Murray being your number one option on any team. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen, especially from an offensive standpoint.
Okay, I'm going to say this. The fact that I don't have any concerns about how many shots he's going to get up in a game like I do like Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, it already shows me that he does have some of the alpha. He's just not outwardly alpha. And I think that that's something that, everyone wants you to be like this, like super emotive person. And he's not. He's very quiet. He's very by the book, but I want to see how he develops in that way. And I think you can be a quiet alpha by your actions on the court. And that's something that, like, we keep watching him. Like, he just doesn't care. He takes a shot, and he hits a shot, but it's not even that he hit the shot that matters. It's that he took the shot, and he took it every single time that he's being handed the ball. And we watched it in Summer League. We watched it in the first two preseason games. Like, the ball touches his hand, he turns around like, okay, it's my turn. And he goes. And so I think that there's potential that's kind of the thing where I keep pointing to, where it doesn't matter how much you compare a player to another one in pre-draft, and you're watching all of this film, and you see different body movements and the way that they like they dunk the ball or they shoot the ball, they remind you of other people. It's not until you get someone in the NBA and they show you who they are against other NBA players. And that's the thing that keeps standing out with Keegan. He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all, and he's not apologetic about it. And he doesn't even say anything about it. He just goes about his business and dominates you. And like for a kid who's coming into the league to be able to do that, and it's not just at, this really low level. It seems like every single time we watch him step on the court, he's the same exact player that we saw in college, in summer league, in San Francisco, and then again Las Vegas, and now we're seeing it in preseason games against LeBron James, and you're just like, okay, now I'm intrigued. And that's really what makes me say, hey, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say he can't be all NBA, because if I say that, he's going to be all NBA, because that's kind of the way he's been.
Because you're wrong all the time.
Because if we say it, then he's instantly gonna be that person. Okay, so let's get to the business of basketball. We'll make this one quick. Yeah, there we go. We'll make this one quick because we are dragging this thing out. But it's fun to answer your questions and to have the chat be part of what we're doing. And we're still at like 165 people. So hit the thumbs up if you are still actually watching.
How many do we have so far?
Well, I don't know the totals, but like
Not enough.
The highest we've gotten up to is basically 20 times what no, I'm not going to do it's basically like mid 180s, 185, 188, something like that. That's pretty impressive. It's good stuff. So let's get to the business of basketball. This is something that Sean and I like to do, that like we're getting to watch Brenden like with his like giant, like, holy cow, this is wild. I'm in training camp every day. And kind of get to watch Brenden grow through this process. And I always like to stop for a sec and ask Brenden the question, like, we're almost to the end of your first training camp. You made your first media day. You're almost to the end of your first official preseason. Just like, how much
what
are
have
you
you learned,
enjoying it?
son?
Well, no, but like, it's a grind, right? It's something that we tried to bring up, that you and I talked about before we got on, before Sean showed up. It's that
You all talked without me?
we did. We talked without you.
late.
Sean may have been habitually late. But no, it's you gear up for the season, and the off season, you're doing all this draft coverage, and then there's this break, and then you think, okay, I'm going to be fresh going into the season, and then all of a sudden you're at the practice facility like 15 days out of the last 20. Just where are you at, like, with that process?
I mean, this is, I guess, weirdly my third head coach, and I think the thing that stood out to me the most is just that, like, the energy amount around Mike Brown feels different. We have been in there a lot when it comes to the practice facility. What I asked you, I think before Sean jumped in, was kind of, is this normal to have this many practices? Because there's been an insane amount, it feels like, recently, which isn't a bad thing. I've just been a little bit caught off guard by just how many there have been in between these preseason games and everything. Yeah.
It's a grind.
And we're kind of at the point where it's like, okay, there's nothing new. I have to get a little creative and make sure I'm really game planning my questions going into this, rather than, a lot of times I feel like throughout the course of the season, we can go in and know what happened in the days prior and then go off that. And I know this has been a little bit different because we've talked to the same guys 2-3 times, and not all too much has changed in between those talks. So got to come in with a little bit more prep for some of these questions. But I think it's been interesting to kind of take the time to learn the different personalities of the new guys. I think that's something that's still new to me. I saw the turnover last trade deadline and got a little bit of a taste of that, I guess. But, like, for instance, if you ask Mike Brown a question about schemes, he seems pretty willing to give you a lot. So I'm going to try to throw more of those questions his way. And just the different reactions you get from different players has been something that's interesting to me as I get my second batch of people to interview.
Yeah, Sean, I don't know. How many head coaches is this for you? This is my ninth.
Oh, Jesus. I had Rick.
Let's see.
Rick was my first. Rick Adelman was my first. So
So
that's
Rick, then Muss, then Reggie, then Kenny Nat, then Paul. So you're on 13. This is your 13th.
yeah, it's too many.
Jeez.
Far too many. Yeah, I think it's great that you see that. It also forces, like I always say, like even covering whether it's good basketball or bad basketball, questions can get a little mundane throughout the course of a season. So you really have to be creative. You have to test yourself. Right now, you're pretty much repeating a lot of it. Not you individually. I'm saying kind of more from my experience and my standpoint is you're ending up repeating a lot of the same questions because you're trying to talk to so many guys, and in the course of a season, that whittles down a little bit. You're not really going so deep into the roster where you're talking to them routinely, at least at practice and games. So right now, I think it's the fun part. There's still a lot of moments to try to get to know a lot of these guys, especially some of these new ones. And I think observations of progress of camp, the structure of Mike Brown, and the chemistry that's being built within these walls of the gym can change almost really daily. And I think it's good. I like to hear the more long picture kind of, the big picture kind of questions with a lot of these guys, as opposed to more of the finer points, because I try not to get too detailed in the finer points of aspects of the team and the game until we really get into the season, because again, training camp, preseason, there's so much haphazard basketball that you really have to show people the door, get to your roster, and then get into the grind of the season, and then that's when you really kind of fine tune some things. So that's just the way I look at it. Also, somebody MD had a question about 10 minutes ago that said, what did Fox and Kent say about Kent Bazemore and Quinn Cook? We kind of played those, but he said, why did Fox 40 and others exclude his answer from the interview? I don't know. We didn't at Fox 40, that is. So if you go to the Fox 40 sports page right now, fox40.com/sports, or their YouTube channel, you can see the entire De'Aaron Fox media session right there.
Yeah, you can also see the clip on my
Yeah,
my
you
Twitter
tweeted
feed.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
When you played it
I-
earlier this episode.
Yeah, I did play it earlier in the episode. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard day. When you're at camp, these are always kind of like a little bit somber days, just because it's a difficult day, because you know that Kent Bazemore is a good dude. This is his second time around in Sacramento. He meant a lot to this team a couple of years ago. And you also know that he might not get another shot. You also know that Quinn Cook hasn't got a shot for a couple of years. So this could be it for some of these guys, and it's difficult to watch some of that play out. And
I think Baze will get a shot.
I think so too, but you never know. You never know. And if that's
Correct.
it's hard. It's hard to like finish up, get on a plane with a guy, and then they had that conversation with Bazemore and Quinn Cook at 2:00 in the morning. Like that happened in the middle of the night last night, where those guys were waived, and that's really, really difficult to kind of go through, right? So again, if you're a basketball player and you've been in the game long enough, you've seen this life cycle of people where they come and they go, but that's kind of the hard thing. And some guys are never going to get their shot. A couple of guys are going to be at camp. They might get to play tomorrow night. They might not. They might never suit up in an NBA game. And I think a lot of guys take that for granted, but I think these are days that remind you that like it is a business and it's harsh, and it's really harsh for some of these guys who have the same dreams that you had when you were 12 years old to make it to the NBA and to be on the court and have those moments, and to see someone's sort of their dream kind of end. It's this will be a weird couple of days. It always is. So yeah.
Thanks. That was on a downer right there. We need to pick it back up.
We got to pick it back up. Okay. So final thoughts. What do we got? Brennan, go.
Oh man, no pressure. I hate that all that. I don't know about. Yeah. Hate is not exactly a upper after that downer, but I guess I just want to say real quick, like I really, really like Keegan Murray as a player. And it's been agitating to me. This is probably something that I'm going to have to just get used to overlooking, but it's been really agitating to me that anytime I say something positive about Keegan, everybody comes back with, but I hated the pick at the time. And I really, really like Keegan as an NBA player. I think he's a really good fit on this Sacramento team. And I think I just like to leave it at that sometimes. It always gets brought back to, no, I don't want to have a but.
Okay.
No, that's kind of the whole point here. I really like Keegan Murray as a player. And I know I wasn't a fan at the time of the draft. Still not the direction I would have gone, but that doesn't mean that I don't really like to watch Keegan Murray play basketball.
Brenden, people hear what the hell they want to hear. I don't know if you've realized this by now. If you remember, everyone's accusing me of the Sabonis Rashawn Holmes playing together. I'm just merely passing along what I was told at the time. And Sean's spreading this narrative. No, bro, I don't have a narrative. The narratives are not that damn good. Let's see what they can be. Let's wait and see it happen first. Everyone wants to see me chug, man. I'm 2 down. I got 2 down.
Look at that.
That's not much of a chug. So that's not a chug. But
I had a few when I was out to dinner earlier. So yeah, I haven't been drinking here on the show. But
what'd you have?
I had a.
Here's the deal, by the way. While you think of that, I really want to do the in-person.
So do I.
Happy hour. I think that'd be kind of fun. But I'm not driving up to Auburn. So
No. We'll find a spot down there, and we'll do it on we'll figure out a day. We'll figure out a day to do it. So there's plenty of places that would house us.
What'd you have? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, what'd you have?
I think I had a Paloma Caliente, which was it was spicy. I do like the spicy drinks like Sean does.
Yeah, I do.
I also me and the wife split a burger at Tap and Vine up in Auburn, which is the bomb. You guys should all go visit my friends at Tap and Vine. They have, what's the crazy hot chili?
Habanero?
No.
Ghost pepper?
A ghost
Reaper?
pepper. They have well, check this out.
No.
They have a cheese that's ghost pepper cheese. So it's basically like a pepper jack, but with ghost pepper.
Oh, I'm in.
And I got that on a burger, and it was like, okay, that's too hot. No, I'm not doing that.
It's too hot?
Some of it seeped into the burger, which was great. It made the burger really spicy. Yeah. So anyway, I had that. Okay, so Sean, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. So we did the taste testing today of some of the new food menu items that'll be at Golden One Center. It's always fun to do that. Most of the time I don't like it. That's no offense to the Golden One staff. Like, some of the stuff just doesn't really appeal to me, but today was actually kind of cool. I think you both tried, right? So
No, I
James
did
was
not.
too cool for school today.
No, they forgot me on the email list, and then so I didn't make plans to do it, and the dogs were at the groomers, and I had to get back, and this is a long story.
How many dogs you got?
3. Same as
I had to tend to the boat.
boats.
I couldn't make it.
Yeah, the dogs.
Of the ones that were there, and this may shock some people out there, I don't eat a lot of red meat. I probably do about 3 to 4 times, maybe a month, somewhere around there, because it's usually just chicken, fish, pork, that kind of stuff. So I thought that the grass-fed burger with lamb and it's like a gyro lamb, so they've got the sauce on there and everything. It was phenomenal. That was probably my favorite, and the fish sandwich was outstanding. So that's where I'd probably go through.
Ryan, go ahead and put that number up there. We didn't hear that. I didn't
What
hear it. Ryan Solom here. He asked if we heard somebody's win total. There you go.
What do you have?
Yeah.
That was up there really quick, buddy.
Yeah, what did he say? Okay.
34.
Sweet.
I'll take the over.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm very much over, but I'm definitely taking the over.
I'll take the over as well. I'll take the over.
I haven't settled on a number, by the way, but I think I'm settling on a number.
Yeah. So
39.
Okay. So we're gonna, I should just because there's still 155 people in here. I should.
Are you gonna spill the beans?
Should I just tell you who is gonna come to the happy hour next week?
Can we just say who it's not until the chat dwindles it down?
Okay, that's fine.
Well, come on.
Let's get guesses. What do you guys got? We will be bringing in a female for the happy hour. And again, like I always like to say this, like things happen and people have to cancel and stuff. So I don't want to like stick, if someone can't do it at the last second, they will be a guest. They've committed to this, but what do we got?
Not Matt George.
Oh, God.
It's not Matt George. It's not Yolanda.
Oh,
It's
that is
not
great.
Morgan Reagan. It's not Trista Crick.
Ben.
Ben Clutch.
Coming in clutch.
It's not Oprah, although I do put the Oprah. It's not Matina. It is.
Alturis's finest.
There you go.
By the way,
Katie Hunter for the audio crowd.
Katie Christensen.
it's Christian.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, way to go, Brenden. So the
It's not Bagley, Ryan.
there's so many great. Oh, I wish we could talk to Lindsey Harding. Go Duke. I will
Tisha
say,
Penichero. I have a great Tisha story.
Katie Christensen is the biggest Golden Girls fan ever.
Thank you for being a friend.
She worships the Golden Girls. I need to get her a T-shirt. She absolutely. So, if you're gonna attend, make sure you bring in your Golden Girls takes. So,
Yeah. 2 seconds for
Golden
an
Girls,
amazing...
Brendan, was a sitcom.
I actually need
in
this
the-
explanation.
You don't know who the Golden Girls are? Oh,
I know
no.
the name, and
Oh,
that's
you
about
weren't
it.
born at all. Yeah.
No.
Estelle Getty, Rue McClanahan, Betty White,
I know that one.
and what's her
B.
name?
Arthur.
B. Arthur. That's right.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we got done with final thoughts and everything else.
This is one for the record books.
Yeah, this is the longest, and we still have 148 people in here. Anyway, so that's going to do it for this edition of... Jesus, Brendan.
Brendan.
These busy streets out here, guys.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. We will be back next week, especially on Tuesday, because we've got a home opener, I think on Wednesday, something like that. It should be a very, very intriguing couple of weeks here as we see the Kings make moves and start the season and see how Mike Brown's mojo works during the regular season. So for Fox 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, I'm James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. See you very soon.
Bye, guys.